Have you ever felt stuck in a relentless cycle of negative emotions? Those long, drawn-out days filled only with sadness? That constant nagging worry about the future? Or those sudden bursts of anger that seem to come out of nowhere? Have you ever wondered why you sometimes overreact to something minor, only to feel regretful later? Or felt completely powerless, as if you just don't have the strength to face life's challenges? If any of that resonates with you, even just a little bit, then today's video is absolutely for you. We often think of ourselves as rational beings, believing that all our big and small decisions are carefully weighed with logic. But the truth is, deep down, it's the powerful currents of our emotions that often steer the ship and color every choice we make. From choosing a life partner, a career path, or a dream vacation, right down to our daily lifestyle. Today, we're going to dissect an incredibly important topic, something that affects every single aspect of our lives: emotions. And more specifically, the emotional traps that we sometimes completely unintentionally set for ourselves. Our guide on this journey is the classic book titled Escaping Emotional Entrapment by the author Daniel Rutley. He's a renowned psychologist with over 30 years of experience, and this book, which came out around 2001, quickly became a bestseller, recognized by the New York Times, and has helped millions worldwide gain a deeper understanding of their complex inner worlds. The book dives deep into explaining how these emotional traps are formed and, more importantly, how we can identify and gradually break free from them. The goal? To live a happier, more positive, and freer life, especially in today's fast-paced, high-pressure world. So what exactly are these emotional traps? Why do we fall into them so easily? And is there a way to liberate ourselves from their grip? Let's explore the essential lessons from escaping emotional entrapment together, right here on BookSmart Insights. Keep an open mind, and let's get started. Before we dive into the traps, we need to fully appreciate the role emotions play in our lives. As I mentioned, emotions aren't just fleeting reactions. They are powerful filters through which we perceive the world and make decisions. Psychological research, along with what author Daniel Rutley points out, confirms that a significant portion of our major choices, who we love, what work we do, where we live, are heavily influenced by our emotional state at that moment. Just think about it. When you're feeling happy, optimistic, full of positive energy, you tend to see opportunities everywhere. You're more likely to make bolder, clearer decisions, trusting yourself and the future. A new business idea? Why not try? A chance to meet new people? Fantastic. The world seems open and full of promise. Conversely, when you're mired in sadness, anxiety, or anger, your worldview seems to shrink. You easily spot risks, difficulties, and negatives. Decisions made in this state are often less accurate, less rational, and can even be detrimental to you. You might miss a great opportunity out of fear, say something hurtful in the heat of the moment, or reject a potential relationship simply because you feel inadequate or unworthy. The poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Your feelings are slaves to your thoughts, and you are the slave to your feelings." This quote somewhat highlights the intimate connection between thoughts and feelings, and how they can control us if we aren't aware. Positive emotions often bring similar pleasant sensations: joy, excitement, gratitude. But negative emotions? They come in countless forms, with infinite shades and intensities, from a gentle melancholy, a fleeting disappointment, to persistent anxiety, fierce anger, or crushing despair. It's this very diversity and complexity of negative emotions that create the numerous, subtle traps we're about to explore. So where do these emotions, both positive and negative, come from? How can an external event stir up an entire inner world within us? In Escaping Emotional Entrapment, Daniel Rutley outlines a very clear three-stage model explaining how emotions are formed. Understanding this model is the first crucial key to being able to intervene and change unwanted emotional reactions. Stage 1. The triggering event, or activating event. Every emotion starts with a triggering event. This can be anything that happens in your life: a specific incident, a situation, someone's words, an action, or even a sudden thought or memory popping into your head. This event is usually memorable, makes a strong impression, and initiates the chain reaction that follows. The example mentioned in the book, and a very common one: you discover your partner has been cheating, playing you falsely. That's the triggering event. Or it could be more everyday things. Your boss criticizes your work in front of colleagues. You're stuck in traffic for hours. Your kids aren't listening. You receive an annoying text message. Anything that impacts you from the outside world or from within can be a triggering event. The triggering event itself is often neutral. Traffic is just traffic. Criticism is just criticism. A partner's infidelity, while painful, is essentially just an event that occurred. What turns these events positive or negative lies in the next stage. Stage 2, the belief system emerges. This is the pivotal stage, the filter that determines how we interpret the triggering event. Your belief system includes everything you believe to be true about yourself, about others, and about the world. It's the collection of your core values, moral principles, life standards, expectations, biases, and rules of conduct that you've accumulated over time from family, education, culture, and personal experiences. This belief system often operates automatically, deep within our subconscious, and we rarely consciously examine or question it. It's like an invisible pair of glasses we wear every day, shaping how we see everything. When the triggering event happens, we instantly consult our belief system to figure out the meaning of that event. The same event, viewed through different belief systems, will lead to completely different interpretations. Stage 3. The emotional consequence, or emotional effect. This is the final outcome. Based on how your belief system interprets the triggering event, a corresponding emotion is formed. If your thoughts, stemming from your beliefs, are logical, rational, and flexible, you'll experience appropriate emotions, which could be positive or negative, but at a healthy level. For example, sadness, disappointment, or moderate worry. If your thoughts become irrational, rigid, and extreme, you'll form unhealthy negative emotions, often excessive and prolonged, leading you to suffering. This is precisely when an emotional trap starts to form. Let's revisit the example of discovering infidelity, the triggering event. Scenario 1, rational belief. You consult your belief system and think, this is incredibly disappointing and hurtful, but it's better to know now than later. I deserve a more honest relationship. This is an opportunity for me to find someone more compatible. The emotional consequence might be sadness and disappointment, healthy, but accompanied by relief at knowing the truth and a relatively positive outlook on the future. Scenario 2, irrational belief. You consult your belief system and think, this is horrible. How could he/she do this to me? This proves I'm not good enough, not lovable. My life is ruined now. I'll never find anyone else. What a terrible person. The emotional consequence is intense suffering, overwhelming anger, feelings of worthlessness and despair, unhealthy negative emotion. Psychologist Albert Ellis, the founder of Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, RBT, whose ideas align closely with what Daniel Rutley presents, emphasized, it's not the events that disturb us, but our beliefs about them. Understanding this is a breakthrough because while we often can't control the events that happen to us, we can learn to control and change our beliefs and the way we think about them. Experiencing negative emotions is a completely normal and unavoidable part of life. Everyone feels sad, worried, disappointed, regretful, or even angry sometimes. When these emotions are simply appropriate responses to situations, helping us process information, adapt, or motivate change, they are considered healthy negative emotions. For example, feeling sad after losing a loved one is healthy. It helps process grief. Feeling moderately anxious before an important exam is healthy. It motivates thorough preparation. Feeling disappointed when failing to reach a goal is healthy. It can fuel greater effort next time. Feeling concerned about a sick relative's health is healthy. It shows love and care. The problem arises when these negative emotions, for reasons linked to our irrational belief systems, get pushed to extreme levels, persist relentlessly, and disrupt our lives. At this point, they are no longer healthy, but have transformed into unhealthy negative emotions, or the very emotional traps the book discusses. Common emotional traps include depression, when sadness morphs into crippling despair and numbness; anxiety disorders, when worry becomes uncontrollable; obsessive fear, destructive anger, when irritation escalates into rage and hostility, causing harm to self and others. Why do we turn ordinary emotions into these self-destructive traps? Before exploring the deeper causes, let's dissect the main types of emotional traps described by Daniel Rutley in more detail. Trap 1. Depression, the pit of despairing sadness. Depression isn't just feeling blue for a few days. It's a profound and persistent emotional state characterized by chronic sadness, a complete loss of interest in activities once enjoyed, and feelings of meaninglessness, emptiness, and emotional numbness. Someone experiencing depression might feel apathetic, indifferent, detached from others, and numb to life. In severe cases, they may have thoughts of death or suicide as a way to escape the suffering they feel is unbearable. The book highlights two main psychological manifestations of depression. Towards oneself. The core tendency is self-deprecation. People with depression often view themselves in an extremely negative light. They constantly berate themselves with thoughts like, "I'm useless, I can't do anything right, everything is my fault, and I'm a burden to everyone." They feel sorry for themselves, see themselves as victims of circumstances or fate, and may even feel the whole world is against them. This self-deprecation leads to feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. They lose faith in their ability to change their situation, finding even small daily decisions difficult. They believe their life is an inescapable tragedy and lose their will to live. Towards others. Another, perhaps less recognized, manifestation is excessive pity for others. The example given is the mother who completely falls apart over her son's divorce. Her pain, helplessness, pity for the grandchildren, and vicarious suffering for her son are understandable. However, her extreme breakdown doesn't help. Instead, it makes her son feel worse and more burdened. In this case, the mother has fallen into unnecessary pity. The book explains that this often stems from the person's own fear of facing a similar situation. They project their own fears and catastrophizing onto others, believing it's an unbearable tragedy for them too, instead of seeing the reality more balanced, e.g., divorce might mean children no longer witness fighting, and parents have a chance at new happiness. This excessive pity ultimately only fuels more negativity and fear within the person feeling it. Many readers have shared recognizing themselves or loved ones in these descriptions. One comment on Goodreads stated, The section on depression really hit home. I realized I'd been putting myself down for years without knowing it. The book helped me understand it's a trap I can get out of. Trap 2. Anxiety, the cage of future fears. We all worry, but when worry becomes a constant, obsessive state, generating intense feelings of unease, restlessness, dread, and overwhelming fear about things that might happen in the future, even if unlikely, that's when we're caught in the anxiety trap. This feeling is persistent and pervasive and significantly disrupts normal physical and psychological functioning. Racing heart, difficulty breathing, insomnia, muscle tension, trouble concentrating. These are common symptoms. The author points out 3 main irrational belief tendencies leading to anxiety disorders and fear. Anxiety about approval. This stems from the core belief, I must have the love and approval of others, especially important people, to feel happy and worthwhile. Placing your happiness and self-worth in others' hands like this means constantly living in anxiety, afraid of doing something displeasing, afraid of rejection, afraid of abandonment. Because, fundamentally, we cannot control others' thoughts or feelings. This fear can lead to people-pleasing, losing oneself, or avoiding relationships altogether to preempt the risk of rejection. Fear of discomfort. Discomfort anxiety. The core belief here is, I must always feel happy, comfortable, and in control. If something bad, uncomfortable, or challenging happens, it will be awful, unbearable. This belief makes us excessively anxious about potential misfortunes. We fear the very feeling of discomfort, inconvenience, or challenge. This mindset leads to the self-defeating idea that we aren't capable of coping and that we can't handle problems if they arise. The common result is avoidance or procrastination of tasks that might cause discomfort or carry a risk of failure, even if those tasks are important. Perfectionism. This is a form of anxiety closely tied to self-worth, similar to anxiety about approval. The perfectionist believes, I must perform perfectly, correctly, and efficiently in everything I do. If I make a mistake or fail, it will be terrible and prove that I am worthless. This belief keeps them in a state of constant anxiety, terrified of potential failure or error. The pressure to be perfect makes it hard to enjoy the process and leads to harsh self-criticism and criticism of others, and constant stress. Brené Brown, a renowned researcher on vulnerability and courage, stated, perfectionism is not self-improvement. Perfectionism is, at its core, about trying to earn approval and acceptance. It's driven by the fear of judgment and shame. Trap 3. Anger, the trap of hostility and demandingness. Anger is a powerful emotion, manifesting as irritation, resistance, and hostility. When caught in the anger trap, unhealthy anger, people tend to act dictatorially, demand obedience, and rudely impose their will or opinions on others. 2 main manifestations of unhealthy anger are analyzed. Note, not taking responsibility for one's own emotions. This tendency forms when we believe our anger is caused by others. He made me furious, or it's her fault I lost my temper. We blame others' actions, words, or even existence for violating our rules, desires, or viewpoints. The author notes this is partly instinctual, but largely learned from our environment. Example, parents yelling, "You're making me angry." We learn we have the right to blame others and demand they take responsibility for our anger, instead of recognizing that emotions are our internal reactions to external events, filtered through our beliefs. Believing others must be responsible leads us to act like tyrants, entitled to judge and punish. This anger not only fails to solve problems, but also damages relationships and our health. The cited Harvard study showing increased heart attack and stroke risk after anger outbursts underscores this. Anger related to unclear self-worth. This occurs when you think someone is devaluing you, and you believe they must not or should not do so. It's similar to anxiety about approval, but manifests as anger instead of fear. The classic example is revisited. The girlfriend is angry because her boyfriend is often late, interpreting it as his lateness proves he doesn't respect me, doesn't value me. If he respected me, he would be on time. Here, she's tying her self-worth, am I respected, to his actions, punctuality. She's angry because she feels her value is being violated. However, the book stresses that others' actions, like being late, often reflect them more. Maybe he's disorganized, overly busy, rather than their opinion of you. Automatically assuming others' behavior defines your worth is a trap leading to unnecessary anger. We can't control others' thoughts or actions, and our worth isn't dependent on how they treat us. So, we've explored the three major emotional traps: depression, anxiety, and anger. They all share the common trait of originating from normal negative emotions, but being inflated to extreme levels by irrational beliefs within our system. Now, let's dig even deeper to uncover the core toxic elements in our belief systems that nurture these traps. Escaping Emotional Enrapment identifies three fundamental types of irrational beliefs that act like the roots feeding almost every emotional trap we encounter. Understanding these three causes is crucial because they are the targets we need to aim for to create change. Cause 1. Demandingness, the tyranny of must and should. This is considered the foundational cause, the mother of all prolonged emotional suffering. Demandingness is a term coined by Albert Ellis, referring to the rigid, dogmatic belief that something must or must not exist or happen. It's expressed through our use of demanding absolute words like must, should, have to, need to, ought to, supposed to. This demandingness has two main directions. Direction 1, self-demandingness. We impose rigid demands on ourselves. I must always succeed. I must please everyone. I must always be strong, never weak. I have to make a lot of money. I should be married by 30. I must be the perfect spouse, parent, employee. These musts are often learned from family and society, and we turn them into ironclad rules for our lives. While many of these goals are noble, approaching them with a have-to-do mindset instead of a want-to-do or choose-to-do mindset creates immense pressure. When we fail to meet these musts, we easily fall into depression, anxiety, and self-blame. Even when we achieve them, we rarely feel truly satisfied because we are just chasing someone else's should, society's script, not our own free choice. Direction 2. Other demandingness. We impose rigid demands on other people. He must be responsible for his family. Children should obey their parents. My friends ought to always support me. People must treat me fairly. The world should operate the way I want it to. When others or the world fail to meet these musts, we easily become angry, disappointed, and resentful. Psychological reactance shows that the more we push others with musts and shoulds, the more likely they are to resist, even if it's good for them. Coercion always creates pressure and opposition. Interestingly, even when we demand things of ourselves, a part of us resists, leading to procrastination or self-sabotage. Thus, demandingness, whether directed inward or outward, is the root cause of stress and dissatisfaction, and fertile ground for emotional traps like depression, anxiety, anger, envy, and perfectionism to grow. Cause 2. Awfulizing, catastrophizing, exaggeration, turning molehills into mountains. Why is it that when faced with the same difficulty, job loss, breakup, illness, some people maintain an optimistic spirit and find ways to cope, while others feel like their world has collapsed, viewing it as an endless tragedy? The book points out a crucial reason: the habit of exaggerating negative emotions and events. Awfulizing means blowing the perceived terribleness of a situation or an uncomfortable feeling way out of proportion to reality. We use catastrophic language like, "It's awful," "It's horrible," "I can't stand it," "This is the end," "My life is completely ruined." Almost all prolonged suffering contains some degree of awfulizing. A minor inconvenience, a subpar hotel room, is exaggerated into frustration and anger that ruins the whole trip. A rejection in a job application is exaggerated into, "I'm a failure, nobody wants me." A breakup is exaggerated into, "I'll never find anyone else. Life has no meaning anymore." Losing a limb, a major and painful loss, is exaggerated as, "My life is over. I can't possibly live like this." Instead of seeing it as an extremely significant inconvenience, a challenge requiring adaptation, from which one can still live a meaningful life. When we awfulize, we trap ourselves in feelings of fear and helplessness. We not only multiply our emotional pain, but also paralyze our ability to think logically and find solutions. We get sucked into a negative vortex, believing the situation is truly as awful as we think. Furthermore, people who habitually awfulize often tend to demand that others must also feel it's awful to be considered normal. "How can you be so calm? Don't you care?" They mistake calmness and rationality for indifference or lack of empathy. Cause 3. Self-rating or global rating, confusing behavior with being. The value trap. This is a subtle but incredibly damaging thinking trap. We tend to judge the entire worth of a person, including ourselves, based on specific behaviors or characteristics. We label people and ourselves as wholly good or bad, successful or a failure. The book emphasizes that a person's behavior is a complex mix of many factors, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. The example of a successful man who is kind to outsiders but abusive to his wife illustrates this complexity. You can't label him simply good or bad. Judging the whole person based on behavior is an overgeneralization and is inaccurate. We can only evaluate behavior as good or bad, effective or ineffective, but we shouldn't equate that behavior with the total worth of the person performing it. This trap becomes particularly dangerous when we apply it to ourselves. When we do something wrong, instead of thinking, "I did something wrong," we conclude, "I am a bad, stupid, useless person." When we fail at a project, instead of thinking, "This project failed," we label ourselves, "I am a failure." Globally rating ourselves as bad or worthless based on mistakes or failures leads to destructive guilt and shame. It weakens us, makes us depressed, destroys self-belief, and pulls us into a spiral of self-pity. The author likens anger to the most outwardly destructive emotion, while guilt, shame, is the most inwardly destructive. They are two sides of the same toxic blade. Psychologist Carl Rogers, a proponent of person-centered therapy, stressed the importance of unconditional positive regard, which includes accepting oneself. Constantly rating ourselves based on performance or behavior directly contradicts this principle. So, we've identified the three main roots: demandingness, musts, awfulizing, "It's awful," and self-rating, "I am." Now for the most crucial part. How do we uproot these toxic beliefs and escape the emotional traps? The good news is, no matter how entrenched these traps seem, we absolutely have the power to break free. Escaping emotional entrapment provides specific, practical strategies corresponding to the 3 root causes we just discussed. This process requires awareness, effort, and consistent practice, but the reward is emotional freedom and a much higher quality of life. Strategy 1. Stop masturbating. Turn must into want or prefer. To escape the tyranny of musts and shoulds, we need to learn to accept reality and change the language of our thoughts. Practice radical acceptance. Learn to see things, events, and people as they are, rather than demanding they be different. As Abraham Maslow wrote, cited in the book, one does not complain about water because it is wet, or rocks because they are hard. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or agreement. It means acknowledging reality as the starting point from which you can more effectively change what you can change, instead of wasting energy fighting what you cannot. Identify and change your language. The most critical step is to listen to your own thoughts and words. Notice those demanding words: must, should, have to, need to, and ought to. Whenever you catch them, consciously try to replace them with words expressing preference, desire, or choice. Instead of "I must get to work on time," think, say, "I want to get to work on time to keep my job, show professionalism, avoid a pay cut." Or, "I choose to get to work on time." Instead of "I have to lose weight," think, say, "I want to lose weight to be healthier, feel more confident." Instead of "he must be responsible," think, say, "I would prefer him to show more responsibility." Or, "It would be great if he could, ... Focus on desire and benefits. Emphasize choice. Remember, most things you do in life result from a choice, conscious or not. You go to work because you choose to earn an income. You clean the house because you choose to live in a clean environment. Recognizing this element of choice significantly reduces the feeling of being forced and increases a sense of autonomy. Apply to others. When communicating, avoid demanding language. Instead, express your desires clearly, explain your reasons, or make requests and offer encouragement. For example, instead of "you must study," try "studying now will help you be well prepared for the test tomorrow." Or, "I appreciate it when you cook and take care of the family. It makes me happy too." Changing your language isn't just superficial wordplay. Words reflect and reinforce beliefs. As you change how you talk, you gradually change how you think and feel. Eliminating demandingness significantly reduces pressure, internal resistance, and is the first step to freeing yourself from depression, anxiety, and anger. Strategy 2. Stop awfulizing. Bring things back into perspective. To combat the habit of turning small issues into catastrophes, we need to practice evaluating situations more realistically and building our tolerance for discomfort. Challenge awful thinking. When you catch yourself thinking, "This is awful, horrible, the worst," stop and ask yourself rationally, is it really that awful? Or is it just very unpleasant, inconvenient, disappointing? On a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 is the worst imaginable catastrophe, like a devastating war or natural disaster, where does this event realistically fall? Often, what we label awful is maybe a 50 to 70 or lower. Does constantly thinking it's awful help me in any way? Or does it just make me more miserable and less capable of dealing with it? Write down your awful thoughts and these challenging responses. This forces clarity and objectivity. Challenge "I can't stand it" thinking. When you think "I can't stand this," ask yourself, is it truly unbearable? Or is it just very difficult and I strongly dislike having to endure it? Have others experienced similar things? And how did they stand it or get through it? What difficult things have I endured in the past? How did I manage? Repeat affirmations about your ability to cope. This is very unpleasant, but I can stand it. I've gotten through harder things before, and I am strong enough to face this. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Use down-to-earth language. Instead of exaggerating words, disaster, nightmare, unlivable, practice using terms that more accurately describe the level of discomfort, inconvenience, hassle, difficulty, unfortunate, challenge. Focus on solutions. Instead of dwelling on how bad the situation is, shift your focus to, okay, this has happened. Now, what can I do to improve things or cope with it in the best way possible? Practicing de-awfulizing requires mindfulness and persistence. Start with small daily hassles. Every time you manage to reduce an overreaction, you're reclaiming emotional control and building inner resilience. Strategy 3. Escape the value trap. Practice unconditional self-acceptance. This strategy helps build a solid foundation of self-worth, independent of temporary behaviors or achievements, while also improving relationships. Clearly separate behavior from person. This is the core principle. Constantly remind yourself and practice in communication. With yourself, when you make a mistake or fail, focus on evaluating the specific behavior or outcome. I handled that situation poorly. This plan didn't succeed. I said something hurtful. Avoid jumping to conclusions about your entire being. I am a bad, stupid, failed person. Practice self-compassion. Acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend in distress. With others, when someone does something displeasing, focus feedback on their specific behavior rather than attacking or labeling their character. Instead of "you are irresponsible," try "I felt worried when the report wasn't finished on time. Can we discuss this?" Instead of telling a child "you are bad," say "throwing toys like that is not okay. You could break something or hurt someone." Practice unconditional acceptance of yourself. Learn to accept yourself fully, with strengths and weaknesses, successes and failures. Your core worth doesn't increase with success or decrease with failure. You are inherently valuable. Of others, try to see others as complex individuals on their own journeys, with good and bad points, just like you. Accepting them doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but it means not judging their entire being based on a few actions. Focus on praise and encouragement, instead of solely focusing on flaws and criticism towards self or others. Actively look for and acknowledge good points, efforts, and positive behaviors. Sincere praise and encouragement are incredibly powerful tools for fostering positive change and building strong relationships. As Dale Carnegie wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, "Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise." Criticism and punishment, as Nietzsche pointed out, often just increase fear and cunning, rather than making people better. Escaping the value trap is a long journey, requiring changes to deeply ingrained thinking habits. But the rewards are immense. Inner peace, stable self-esteem unaffected by external events, and deeper, healthier relationships. So we've journeyed together through the core, profound insights from Daniel Rutley's Escaping Emotional Entrapment. From understanding the power of emotions and how they form, to identifying common traps like depression, anxiety, and anger, exploring the 3 root causes: demandingness, awfulizing, and self-rating, and finally, learning 3 powerful strategies to break free. The most important message I want you to take away from today's video is this: Your emotions are largely your choice. It's not the external event that determines how you feel, but how you choose to think, choose to interpret that event through your belief system. And the fantastic news is that belief system can absolutely be examined, adjusted, and changed. As Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, wrote in his classic book, Man's Search for Meaning, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Escaping Emotional Entrapment serves as a guidebook to help us recognize and utilize that space, allowing us to choose healthier, freer responses. The journey of escaping deeply ingrained negative emotional patterns isn't an overnight fix. It requires continuous awareness of your thoughts and feelings, the courage to challenge old beliefs, and the persistence to practice new ways of thinking every single day, starting with the smallest things. But trust that every small step you take on this path brings immense value. Gradually, you'll find yourself becoming more psychologically flexible, more self-controlled in your behavior, and experiencing a greater sense of emotional freedom. You'll no longer be a slave to the unpredictable waves of emotion, but rather the steady captain steering your life's ship through any storm. I truly hope that today's sharing from BookSmart Insights has given you fresh perspectives and useful tools to understand and master your own emotional world. If you found this video helpful and want to continue exploring valuable lessons from other great books with BookSmart Insights, please show your support by hitting that like button. And please share this video with anyone you think might benefit from it too. Most importantly, if you're not yet part of the BookSmart Insights community, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it so you won't miss any new videos on our self-development journey together. I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, and experiences related to today's topic. Have you ever been caught in any of these emotional traps? Which strategy do you think might be most helpful for you? Please leave a comment below. Let's learn and grow together. Thank you once again for spending your valuable time with me. I wish you all inner peace and mastery over your emotions. I look forward to seeing you in the next BookSmart Insights video.